Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, social activist, philosopher, freedom fighter, Mahatma. October 2nd is the International Day of Nonviolence. It's no coincidence that it is also Gandhiji's birthday. Ahimsa, or nonviolence, was a central tenet of his teachings and reflected in his daily personal and public life. But Gandhiji, or Bapu as we have come to know him, was not merely a pacifist. He was a social activist, a philosopher, freedom fighter, and Mahatma, all wrapped into a single unique individual who is remembered by millions across the globe even today. He was guided above all by the call of action against injustice, so persuasively depicted in the dialogue between Arjun and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. One reason for Gandhiji's lasting influence is the way in which his life and message resonates across the most critical problems of our age: the resurgence of authoritarianism, economic inequality, racial and religious intolerance, runaway consumption, and climate stress. On each of these, Gandhi both showed the way, not only in thought, but more critically, in daily action. He fought against bondage slavery and colonial rule. He worked to bring jobs and dignity to the millions of rural workers throughout his Swadeshi movement. He advocated the simplest of lives based on local resources and local industry. His daily life was one of discipline and social action, with none of the trappings of modern-day consumerism. This was not all. His fight for racial equality in South Africa and for political freedom in India. During this time, he also managed to inspire some of the greatest names of our age: Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King, and Nelson Mandela, among others. This showed that what matters in the end is not the wealth and the baubles of power, but the generosity of the human heart, not the ego of rulers and their ability to create fear, but the joy of giving and a belief in God. It was Gandhiji, more than the might of the Indian army and police, that brought the carnage of a Noakhali or Delhi to an end by the individual act of fasting and prayer. It was not the speeches of the landed and intellectual elite that brought British rule to an end in India. It was Gandhiji's uncanny ability to see through the human soul, to connect with the daily lives of millions of the very poor, and to turn lowly items of everyday use, such as salt and the spinning wheels, into the instrument of self-expression and anti-colonial struggle. His organizing genius and innate goodness was not just evident in India, it was just as noticeable in South Africa. As Mandela loved to point out, "You sent us a lawyer, we gave you back a Mahatma." Gandhiji was unusual in many other ways too. He was a leader of India's national movement, but also an internationalist who was concerned about the plight of Lancashire workers affected by Swadeshi, that boycotted British imports and supported village industry. In his ashrams and community programs, Indians and non-Indians worked side by side, undivided by gender, race, caste, or religion. An exceptional achievement in 1920s India. He was the undisputed leader of the Indian national movement, but owned no wealth, created no dynasty, held no office. And yet, he held sway over millions. Corruption, the hallmark of modern-day politics throughout the developing and some of the developed world, could not touch him. Transparency, humility, and leading by personal action were the hallmark of Gandhiji's approach and life. It is these attributes that continue to defy the turbulence of modern times. Indeed, in many ways, Bapu's influence and relevance is greater today than it was during the heyday of anti-colonial marches and strikes and civil disobedience. Gandhi's ashes speak to us in ways that no other living human can do today. What a spectacular and fitting end to a man who lived as he spoke, who acted as he wanted others to act, who was a father, not an emperor, who wanted freedom, but not at the cost of killing others, who was awkward in his dress and movement, but whose voice rang out clearly and with force across the ages. Could there be any greater legacy left by a single Indian dressed in a common homespun dhoti, holding a simple walking stick to a world of 8 billion people today?